Our stabilization project. Our first stabilization wedge is nuclear energy. We should use nuclear energy because it provides the least waste of any major production process and produces zero greenhouse gases. Our second stabilization wedge is fuel switching because by switching to natural gas, you can cut the carbon produced in half and prevent the burning of gasoline in cars. Our third stabilization wedge is CCS electricity, which stands for carbon capture and storage. This is a method that traps carbon dioxide and other gases being produced from nuclear and coal-burning power plants that produce energy. Carbon capture and storage electricity can capture up to 90% of the carbon prevented, and in fact can even separate the carbon dioxide from the other gases produced. Our fourth stabilization wedge is forest storage because forests take up approximately 1/3 of the U.S. land base. In 2010, this accounted for 251 million metric tons of carbon, which offset about 13% of fossil fuel emissions and up to 20% of total emissions. Scientists also suggest that by converting 1/3 of cropland to forest, we could offset the carbon dioxide another 10%.
Our next wedge is biofuels. A biofuel is a fuel that contains energy from geological carbon fixation such as plants. These fuels are produced from living organisms. The two most common types today are ethanol and biodiesel. Our next wedge is soil storage. Soil storage is a vital ecosystem service resulting from interactions of an ecological processes. Organic matter is a key component of soil that affects its physical, chemical, and biological properties, contributing to human societies. Soil organic matter improves soil structure and reduces erosion, leading to improved water quality in groundwater and surface waters, and ultimately to increase food security and decrease negative impacts to ecosystems.
Our seventh stabilization wedge is wind electricity. Wind electricity is beneficial because it uses virtually no water in its process and releases next to zero emissions. This form of clean energy also pumps billions of dollars into our economy every year and creates many jobs. Currently, there are 50,500 jobs in the wind energy industry, and with this growing, the number of jobs will grow as well. Our final stabilization wedge is conservation in the forms of transportation. Specifically relating to automobiles, one way to make transportation more efficient is to increase the fuel mileage in cars. Whether switching to hybrids or sticking to gasoline, increasing the miles per gallon will cause less emissions and more efficient traveling. Also, cutting the distance and amount vehicles travel will also help to reduce the amount of emissions released by these vehicles. Taxpayers and consumers would give our stabilization wedges a 3 because although many of the efficient methods would reduce taxes and the energy bills on their cost, the possibility of having to reduce miles driven or getting a new car may cause problems for some residents. Energy companies would give ours a 5 because of the energy solutions listed, some that deal with transportation do not affect the energy companies, and the others that affect the companies will make them more efficient, therefore generating them more money, creating more jobs, and boosting their companies altogether. Environmental groups will support our stabilizations because every method here is to reduce the CO2 and essentially the global warming of our planet. Because environmentalists are supportive of reducing global warming, anything that we can do to help this will gain support from them. Manufacturers are given a 2 on the rating scale because most manufacturers will probably disagree with the idea of taking money away from the energy companies. Manufacturing and industrialization is not given emphasis in our ways to reduce carbon emissions, so the lack of emphasis on business will probably make manufacturers disagree with our solutions. Industrialized country governments will give us a 2 in their ratings this for the same reason manufacturers will. Many of these energetic methods take away from business and industrialization of companies. If a country is industrialized and has emphasis on business, making things more efficient and reducing costs of many items will probably make these people disagree with our solutions. Finally, developing countries' governments will give us a higher approval rating than those of industrialized. Because most developing countries are struggling, the ability to reduce costs in any way possible will gain support from them.